92.9 WAME and W225BD Statesville.
Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm.
If you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
From the racing world with their stories, their paths,
Their racing roots.
Now here's our host, David Hamm.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm on this fine and beautiful day. We were like 70s. It always close to summertime. No, I'm just kidding. We ain't even found spring yet. But anyway, yeah, hope y'all had a great day. But it's going to be even greater now because we're going to have a great show with the great Reverend Burgess in with us this evening. How's that for my
Great.
segue? But it's really great. Thank you.
Great.
But I didn't introduce my wife, so make sure I do
I'm
that.
always last.
Ham Delight.
Yep. Ham Delight. That's what it is.
That's right.
I gave her that name when I
did.
first met you.
Yeah.
I was like, well, there's Ham, and then what are we going to say about Traci? Oh, Ham Delight.
Because she's such a delight to be around all the time.
Praise God.
Not all the time.
24/7.
No. Don't-
Especially in the
Don't be
mornings.
telling stories up in here. Yeah, in the mornings, don't speak to me.
Yes. She's not much of a morning person, but that's okay. We'll let her. We'll give her a pass.
Not a lot of us are.
Yeah. So our good friend Reverend Brian Burgess, pastor of Buelah Baptist.
Yeah, that's fine.
You pretty much go by pastor, right? I mean,
I just go by Brian. Look, I always say this when I got there, people were like, what should I call you? And I was like, well, my mom named me Brian. And I've been called a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
So, but if I get the privilege to be your pastor, then call me pastor. Just don't call me preacher.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
like and nobody walks up to you and go, hey, engine builder Ham.
Yeah.
Hey, plumber Joe. Hey, trash man
Yeah.
Jeff. You know, you just call them by their name. So,
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I always thought, like, if you put in that much time in college or seminary or whatever, then
Yeah,
it's kind of
seminary.
like doctor.
Yeah.
You know, in a way.
yeah.
So I always
yeah,
feel
one of these
like-
days maybe I elevate to like bishop. No, I'm just kidding. That's stupid.
But, that's all right.
No,
dude.
I mean, yeah. So, man.
Yep, pastor
So
of Buelah Baptist, and y'all have a YouTube channel, right? So
Yep, we have a YouTube channel, BeulahChurch.com, or Buelah Church, and actually, I'm logged into YouTube now.
Okay.
So you can tag on it there. We got some folks here tonight. What's up, Stoney? And there's old Dickie Dennis. What's up, dude? And Brian Seneca from the swamps of Florida.
the Florida swamp.
That's what I'm talking
Down
about.
there.
I was born in Florida.
Oh, were you really? I didn't know that.
Yep, Orlando. Lived in Kissimmee and then Melbourne.
Okay.
Kissimmee during the day and Kissimmee at night. That's what we'd always say.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
I always wondered if that was a real place.
Yeah,
It is.
Well, I know now. I mean, as an adult, I know. You know, it's like, what's the other one up in Michigan? Kalamazoo.
Yeah,
Oh,
Kalamazoo.
this is real.
I always wondered if that was for real.
Yeah. yeah.
Australia.
Well, it's like in Ohio where the train wrecked. It was like East Palestine.
Yeah.
But they call it something else other than that. And then there's like a Miami, West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of wild too.
Benito, Ami.
That's Japanese, dear.
Yeah.
Arigato.
Arigato. What was that? That was that old classic rock song, right?
It was
Yes.
Domo
Mr.
Arigato.
Roboto.
Yeah, Roboto.
Mr. Roboto.
You know, it's tough having to, being here with two individuals who have a lint filter for a brain.
Oh,
You and I, that random stuff can come in.
squirrel runs by. Whatever.
See, everybody's tried to diagnose me with ADD, but I just say God created me to be overly creative at awfully random times.
Awfully random times.
Yeah,
That's great.
I own my ADD.
But Stoney always tells me that I have a photographic memory, and he does too. He said it gets him in a lot of trouble though, but sometimes it comes in handy.
Well, you just got to have, muzzle control, LSB, least said best sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we're going to tell it all tonight, so
I've done good because I haven't gotten in trouble with my wife yet.
that's good.
No, I've gotten in trouble with you already.
Today?
Yeah.
Well, you guys should have been here when they were trying to
Couple times.
hang up the Racing Roots sign. I thought I was going to have to cancel the show and start marriage counseling.
Yes.
But I told them I was off tonight.
That's right.
Takes a village. We joke around a lot, you know.
Oh yeah, it's good to have healthy
At
jokes.
least we talk.
Yeah, I'm amazed by that. So I'm a people watcher. I love watching people. It's hard to tell when people are talking to themselves because everybody's got like a Bluetooth in. But if you can't see their hearing aids, because I've just learned that you can actually get hearing aids that'll tap into your Bluetooth. So you could be talking to somebody, you can watch the TV, You know, it's all your phone's tapped into it as well. And so I just love it when I watch people walk down the road and like they're having a conversation with themselves. And but it amazes me. I call it the fish camp syndrome. Like when you see a man and a woman that are sitting apart across from one another at a restaurant, and they talk and flirt more with the waiter or the waitress than they actually do
That sounds
with,
like David.
with one another. And I'm just like, what's going on there? Like,
I'm just friendly.
yeah, honey, you want to go eat and not talk?
Go
Or
eat,
they
not
sit there
talk.
on their cell phones and
Yeah.
don't
Oh, yeah.
even address each
So
other.
last night we were at Logan's. I know this has nothing to do with
Logan's,
the show.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
good-
so
good
stuff.
Angie and I, that's kind of my wife. We call her First Lady, or I call her First Lady on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
So there was this man and woman. I'm assuming they were husband and wife. No cell phone. They had a word search or crossword puzzle book, and they had it laid out open. She was doing one side of the book. He was doing the other. And they were just talking back and forth, and they were probably in their 60s. And I thought, now that's the end
that's
game stuff
goals.
right there, man.
That's
Yeah, that's
goals.
goals. So there you go, Ham. That's
Gave-
a free one.
I was
There
going
you
to say,
go.
you just gave Traci an idea, but she don't do crosswords very well.
Well, I mean, I do word searches.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, we can do that. That'd be fine. I'll
Most of the
compromise.
time, it's just trying to figure out what Ham says. It's a word search. Like, it's a Sudoku.
Well, no, he has 10 conversations, and it's hard to keep up with all 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, it makes it worthwhile. So,
Yeah.
but it's good to be here tonight. I'm grateful for the opportunity and been a fan of the show for a long time. Listened to a lot of legends on here. I'm like, man, how does Ham know all these people?
Yeah.
And you just know because you've been in the business so long.
That's right. Just like I've been in, over 25 years, and you get to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Working in racing, because like you go to the racetrack and then you see 1,000 people. Not race the fans and all too, but all the people that working in the crews and stuff. It's like you become it's one big family.
Yeah.
So yeah, get to know a lot of people.
Yeah, that's good.
But I enjoyed the time, and my wife is her dad worked in racing too. Kenny Thompson.
Yeah.
Worked in racing for a long time. He worked for Harry Gant and over at Hendricks. And we're actually having a revival coming up. Did I say that was the 18th? Over at Hendricks.
I got in trouble because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's for all the racing friends from the other race teams and stuff. So if y'all
What
know
day
it,
is the
put it down on
18th?
here. It's on a Saturday.
Okay, I
It's
might
at-
be safe with that one.
It's at high noon on Saturday. It's over at the Hendricks complex. So I got a call from Gail Wilson the other day, who was the bandit, and it was telling me to come and bring my
Like
father-in-law
the bandit,
too.
He drove.
He drove
like,
the truck.
like Brad Border's father-in-law.
That's
bandit.
it. That's
yeah,
him. Yep.
dude. Man, it kept an amazing truck. The bandit's a legend.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll never forget when I first met him. Like I was like, oh, like the Holy Grail. You
Yeah,
know, it's just
starstruck,
awesome.
kinda
Yeah, I
like-
really was. Like,
Yeah.
but I've been able to meet a lot of guys in NASCAR over the years and disciple a few of them and have some fun and almost go to jail with a couple of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I guess we'll talk about that later in the evening.
Didn't you say you had? Well, you did. You were talking about Buddy Parrott,
Yep, yeah, Buddy Parrott.
and we can talk about him. So, Tad Taylor. Do you know Tad Taylor?
Don't
He
know.
says, "Well, I better read this first. Here, you want to see what it says? I mean, it's nothing
she's
bad.
censored.
I know it's nothing bad.
Ham delights the censor.
Yes,
Yeah.
Censorship.
I'm
But
the
it-
FAA.
It would
What?
the FAA, FCC. You mean?
Oh, whatever.
See, she's,
Like, what are we talking about here? I don't know this acronym.
she'll say stuff backwards too. Though.
It's
That's
okay.
why. Yeah.
She was married to you.
Yeah, well, no, I know Tad's not going to say anything he shouldn't say, but it might be something he don't want me to read on air.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's
Oh,
why
he
I
just
figured-
says tell the Rev to come to breakfast tomorrow morning because the substitute preacher who's been filling in won't be able to make it.
Who is that?
Tad Taylor.
Oh, yeah. So
It's our neighbor.
So there's a group of guys over at Pat's place that before I started really getting aggressive about losing weight, I went to Pat's place. So I dropped my kids off and I'd go hang out and put up with their mouthing me. Of course, I give it right back to them.
Yeah.
So there's been a minister of sorts or lay minister that has stepped in. He sits with them all the time, and so they're constantly sending me text messages like, "You're almost replaced," and I'm like, "Look, often imitated, never duplicated."
That's
brother.
right.
Like so those guys are amazing. Like
Yeah.
they're a lot of fun.
I remember that. Was that wrestling or something?
That was Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
Yeah.
See, reason that this popped in my head. Ric
Wrestling.
Flair and Kyle Petty. Kyle's got his show.
Yeah.
And he had Ric Flair. He's bad up
he?
with Ric Flair. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to see how that went.
Yeah.
Went good.
Yeah.
Ric Flair. He's like, somebody said, your life's not complete till you hang out with Ric Flair.
Yeah, I've seen Rick a couple times in the airports. He was always really nice. Of course, again, knowing a lot of wrestlers too from traveling and then being in ministry and discipling those guys. One of my best buddies is Jeff Jarrett. Lives in Hendersonville. He was king of the mountain and blind-handed dude. His dad just died a couple weeks ago, and just a solid dude. He's back in wrestling. He's a Hall of Famer, and big story. So maybe we'll call in one night. Check on him.
Do you know? Let's see. What does he go by? Let's just keep talking, and it'll
The guy
pop
you
in my
went to
head.
school with?
Yeah. Right.
I have no idea.
Yes, Ronnie Killings.
Ron Killings, like it wasn't the butcher.
R-Truth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I met him in Charlotte one time. He and I kept up with one another for a little bit when I was using Twitter a whole bunch.
Okay.
I'd pray for him, and he's done really well. Like to run his gimmick the way he has, and to watch wrestling shift the way it has. Like they pretty much got rid of all. This is not going to be a popular statement, but I'm not very politically correct. So if that offends you, just send me an email. I'll be okay.
That's all right.
But it seemed like they got rid of all the big white superstars. And just a whole different influx of wrestling came in. And the only ones that they would bring back in were like the legends like Goldberg or, not Sting, but I can't, my brain just went nuts. But anyway, but Ron has done an awesome job of just picking up on all that.
So we played high school football together, and he was always really muscular.
Yeah.
He was real skinny. He was kind of skinny back then, but he was muscular. But he was always great. I mean, we got along.
He's one heck of an athlete.
Like we were good friends.
And it's really improved his communication, like grabbing the mic and owning a coliseum, and the gimmick with people just jumping up. And when you stand in front of people and you can like get them to finish your taglines, then there's something to that.
Oh yeah.
Even if people boo you, there's still something to that.
That's right.
And so he's done an awesome job with that.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we got David Johnson's going to be on the phone with us. He's going to tell us a little bit about the race because we talked about that before.
Vegas this weekend, right?
Yep, that's right. And so, hey, are you there, David? Sometimes hey, are you there? All right. Sometimes if I don't answer, I don't know if I did answer it, but they just hang up. Oh, we're going to turn that on. Sorry about that. Call us back here, David. So, anyway, he's going to tell us.
Error.
Yeah, it was user error, and my bad there. Talk a little bit about the race, and we'll get that out of the way because I know a lot of my listeners said watch the race, or if they didn't get to watch it, they're going to find out from David. He's going to let us know how it went. And have you ever been to a race? NASCAR race?
Yes, I have. It's been a while.
Okay.
So I've been in one.
Did you get hooked once you went, or no?
Here's what I love. I love go ahead.
You love the what?
I love the science behind it. I love, the best part about it is just back in the day when they let people fist fight.
Oh,
like like it's not a race unless it's a fist fight or like you're just, you're slinging something at somebody.
Did you see when Donnie
is racing?
Evans Racing, that's right.
Yep.
From Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Whenever Donnie Ellison was on the show, and Terry Levan was here too, and then Donnie Ellison doesn't care for Kel Yarborough. They're the ones that got the fight in 1979. And then he said, and then Terry's like, "Who tried to wreck you?" And he's like, "You know who wrecked me."
Yeah, Terry's a bit of an instigator. I've had to pick Terry up before and slam him. Before he's bounced off the ground a couple of times for his smart mouth.
He's a skinny guy, but he's tall, but he's a skinny guy.
Yeah.
Hey, David.
Hey, yes, sir.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh, good. How about y'all?
Oh, we're doing just fine. You're going to tell us a little bit about the race this weekend? What all happened? Is it scratching?
Yes, sir. If it's okay with y'all, I was going to start off with the Truck Series race there at Vegas Friday evening.
Yeah.
There was a plane out of Statesville that was bringing several of the crew members from Kyle Busch Motorsports, from Thor Sport, and a couple others, Bill McAnally, and their plane broke down, so they had to wait on a backup plane. So they were late getting to the track to get suited up and everything to get over the wall. So the first pit stop, they had the road crew guys doing it, and you could see a drastic difference between the road crew guys and what you call the hired guns. So that's pretty cool to see that how much a hired gun that specializes in their job makes as far as how the pit stop goes. because I was one of them road crew guys and did pit stops, and it took me a while to get to the speed that the people we hired in to come and do it. So that was pretty cool. But the racing was really, really good for the truck series there. Wide 3 wide, 4 wide racing throughout the run, just not on the restarts. And Kyle Busch ended up winning his first truck race in a Chevrolet since the Billy Blue days when he was driving that Hendricks. So that was really good to see them be able to change manufacturers and come out the gate swinging already.
So is he racing a Hendricks, or no, is it his truck?
Yeah, he's racing his truck, but when he went to RCR, when he left Gibbs and Toyota, they switched over
Oh, okay.
to Chevrolet.
Got you.
So they're running the ECR engines, and we've seen as far as the whole truck Xfinity Cup Series, the ECR engines for the Chevrolets are really, really stout.
Okay, so how did the Xfinity race get? Good.
Xfinity race, so Xfinity race was a lot calmer than the Truck Series race was, but Chandler Smith, he's a rookie driving for Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing's up there in Welcome, right next to Richard Childers, and he dominated. But as the run went on, the last run, especially today, as it went on, he started pushing really bad, so it was really hard for him to navigate lap traffic. So Austin Hill was running second. Allgaier was third. They were 2+ seconds behind with about 20 laps to go or so. They ended up chewing away at it and coming to the white flag. Austin was able to get underneath them and take the lead coming to the white flag. But I was going to touch on that as far as why he started pushing for it. And a lot of people consider, if in racing you say, I got a good short run car or a good long run car. And basically the long run is you consider a long run 20 or more laps, 15, 20 laps or more. And what happens is you build up the air pressure. So if you're tight, you build up the air pressure in the right front tire really, really bad. If you're loose, you build up the air pressure usually in the right rear tire. So as the run went on and as he tightened up, it was a lot harder for him to basically make it steer correctly to get around the corner to get past people. So Austin Hill and Allgaier have really, really good long-run cars compared to Chandler. So if they would have had late race caution, Chandler would have had it in the bag more than likely.
Okay.
So yeah, Austin Hill is becoming, in my opinion, like he's like a nickel in the penny stack, because he came through the Truck Series and had some really, really good success there. Came into RCR last year, won at Atlanta and Daytona to start the season off last year. Came back, fell off at Daytona this year, won, and now followed up with a 1.5 mile intermediate win. And he's really, really good road course racer, short track racer. So I look for him to do really, really big things this year. And hopefully looking forward to his future. I mean, hopefully RCR can put something together for him and give him a cup ride,
Mm-hmm. Yep. This Mike's
and then, so then the Cup Series, we go, we all know that the 24 William Byron won, but going into the weekend, we found out Friday evening on NASCAR race day for the Truck Series that Chase Elliott has suffered a leg injury in a snowboarding accident in Colorado. So it was announced he's going to have surgery and be out for several weeks, unknown time period as of right now. But they had Josh Berry drive it, and basically Junior Motorsports is basically a satellite team, developmental team for Hendrick Motorsports, both in the Chevrolet camp and all. So Josh Berry was tabbed to drive the 9 car, so they worked well into the night to change the cockpit over for Josh. Josh is a little bit shorter than Chase is, but what a lot of people don't realize is you can't, like a street car, you can you can adjust the steering wheel, move the seat back a little bit, raise it, lower it, and I could hop into my wife's car and she's about a foot shorter than I am and drive down the road, but as far as the Cup cars go, everything's stationary. So you have set heights on your gas pedal, brake pedal, clutch pedal. You have certain angles of the steering wheel. You got some drivers like the seat lean to the left. Some people like it flat, lean to the right. certain drivers prefer more padding as far as like in the rib shoulder area. Things of that nature. You know, some drivers like to be further away from the wheel. Some people like to be like up close. So it's a lot to go into it to switch from one driver to another unless they're very similar in height and stature. So that was a really big undertaking they had. But as far as Sunday went, it was pretty much follow the leader. And for the most part, William Byron had a really, really good car, but Larson was a lot better on the long run. But again, lap traffic was really, really hard to navigate. The major point from the race was Kyle Busch hit the wall early off turn 2, which kind of put a wrinkle in his day. And then Joey Logano got 3 wide on the restart, and they had to stack up and spun through the infield grass and basically ended his day. They tried to repair it, but time on the time clock ran out, repair clock. So that was, and then they had the final caution when the 10 car spun out with about 4 laps to go, so they had a green-white checkered. The 19 was the only car that stayed out. Most of the top 10 to 15 came in, took 2 tires. The 24 beat the 5 off of pit road, and he basically was able to battle the 19 for about a lap and then get around them. And then it took everybody else a little bit longer to get around the 19, so he was able to set sail and take the checker flag. But for the Cup Series, it's looking really, really good for Chevrolet this year. They got 3 wins in the first 3 races.
Yeah, it is. Can't beat that.
So you got but there's a lot of parity there. I mean, usually Vegas, Texas, places like that, when one car hits on it, you'll see that organization go to the top 10. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So Hendrick, like they've won, I think it's the last 3 spring races in a row there at Vegas. Going back to Kyle Larson, 2021, last year with Bowman, and this year with William Byron. So they've always had Vegas figured out pretty good, but they're back on it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, David. Thanks for the update and all. My microphone's messing up whenever the pod's on for the phone for some reason. But thanks for calling in.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it and look forward to speaking with y'all soon.
Okay, buddy. Take care. See you. Bye.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, and now my microphone is fixed, just like that. Something's going on. We'll have to get the engineer in here to look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Billy's had the same problem. Well, you'll find out Wednesday, maybe.
Yeah, I'll find out Wednesday when we do the impossible question or birthdays.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so there you go. That's our race recap for the week or for the past weekend, Vegas.
Can you take a commercial real quick?
Yeah, I just got to think about it. I got to do this commercial right quick. So we'll be right back to Racing Roots with Hamm. We've got Rev and Burgess in with us, so don't go anywhere.
You know, these days there's an auto parts store on every corner. Big flashy buildings with catchy jingles and slogans to get your attention. However, jingles and slogans doesn't mean you'll find the knowledge and service to get you the parts you need. What you need is Johnson's Automotive and a great selection of Auto Plus auto parts. Locally owned and operated, Johnson's gets it right the first time. No return trips or incorrect parts. Their combined 90 years of experience in the automotive parts industry guarantees that you'll get the correct part for your vehicle the first time. Johnson's is proud to provide Auto Plus auto parts, as well as Champion, Moog, Gates, Felpro, Wix, and Wagner, just to name a few. Need a hydraulic line and need it fast? Johnson's can make any hydraulic line you need in just a matter of minutes. You won't find this kind of service and knowledge in any chain auto parts store, only Johnson's. Support your local businesses and shop local. Shop Johnson's Automotive, 1112 Shelton Avenue, Statesville.
Selecting diamonds directly from the world's most renowned master diamond cutters. Accessing tens of thousands of diamonds to find the very best. Going straight to the source to obtain an unequaled price advantage.
888-929-0729. Lakeview, a division of Boggs Landscaping, LLC.
When you cut lawns for a living, reliability matters. Check out the Kubota commercial lineup with purpose-built mowers like the Z700 Zero Turn, SC Stand-On, and the W Series Walk Behind. Decreased downtime and increased productivity. A comprehensive fleet program with special discounts and free loaners helps grow your business, one perfectly manicured lawn at a time. Visit Statesville Ag and Turf, 2457 Simonton Road.
All right, we're back to Racing Roots with Hamm. We got Reverend Burgess in with us today. Brian Burgess from Buelah Baptist Church.
What's up?
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah,
as
good to see you.
always.
Good. What's up? I always say on Wednesdays, what's up, all God's? I can't even talk. What's up, all God's children?
Yeah,
so
that's great. That's what we are.
Yeah.
We are, for sure. For sure.
Hopefully
and,
not children of the devil,
no.
which Jesus also said that. So that was a Motley Crue deal, too.
Oh, yeah.
Shout at the devil.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the jam back in the day.
It was the jam. I remember that.
A lot of those songs.
I had a mullet with smoking cigarettes in the boys' bathroom in middle school.
Smoking in the boys' room. A lot of those songs, I just didn't really pay that much attention to the words, even though I knew them.
Oh, yeah, you did. They were in there.
I make up my own words still.
She does.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest shocking things ever is like go to do karaoke with some friends, you know, whether you have the karaoke machine at your house, you have a youth event, and you got to actually sing the song. And the words are like, whoa, those aren't the right words. And you've been singing those the wrong words in your car or your truck for years, so or in the shower. So
yeah, David's had to correct me a few times.
Yes.
I'm how did I say it, David?
You have what's called chronic lyricosis.
Whatever.
She got anal glaucoma. She can't see her butt singing the right words. So.
I mean, if it's Elvis, she'd be like, "It ain't nothing but a groundhog."
Yeah.
Nah,
that's
not
pretty
that
good.
bad.
I like that. Yeah, that's funny.
I'm not that bad.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza.
Funny.
That is funny.
Very funny.
It's really funny. You better stop.
I have a haircut on my face.
I'm on this side, so I'm not stopping her when she comes around to punch you.
I get this every week.
That's good.
That's the good thing about having my wife on the show.
Yeah.
Love and marriage.
Yes.
It's good.
Like Al. That's the way I take naps too, by the way. Anyway, back to the show.
Yeah, with your hands
Back
in
to
your
the show.
pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad mental image. For all the folks that just heard that, I'll be praying that God takes that image of Ham sleeping on the couch with his hands slightly tucked in his waistband.
Yes, why not? Hey, so you went to, you hung out with someone with Buddy Parrott.
Yeah.
If you want to tell that story.
So I got here in Statesville in '99, and I didn't have any friends. Like, it sounds horrible. Like, I had moved from Greenville, South Carolina. I was actually an undergrad, just finished my undergrad at Gardner-Webb University. And I was traveling as an evangelist, and so I'd come up here to be an interim at a local church, Western Avenue, to be their student pastor. And it worked out great because I was still on the road traveling, speaking, and then they just needed me on Wednesdays and Sundays. So I thought, well, man, this is the best of both worlds. So I get to travel and speak, and then get learning experience, and get paid at the same process at the same time. Well, the longer I stayed, the more I felt like this is where God was calling me to be, and so I moved here May of '99. And man, I love my job, and I had a good gym to work out in. But then when I went home, I just hated it because I didn't know anybody. And it was I was here all by myself, and finally I'd go home and I'd just pout, as I was grilling my chicken and stuff like that, and the Lord was like, well, look, you can pout, or you can just get over it and realize why I brought you here. Well, so I thought, well, where am I going to start? And so my good friend, who's now my wife, Angie, I said, Angie, who's the wildest guy in Statesville? And she goes, well, I don't know about wildest guy, but he's like 15 years older than me. And in my high school senior superlative, Derek Tilley's house was voted like best party house. And I'm thinking, that's pretty cool. Like, dude's 15 years older than you guys, huh?
Is it Tilley?
Yeah, this is Super Tilley. This is Derek Tilley. And so I was like, okay, I'll start there. So a buddy of mine, Aunt Meisenheimer, so I just did his funeral a couple weeks ago, actually on my birthday. He went to Western Avenue, and so we started riding motorcycles together. And then I said, man, introduce me to Derek Tilley, who was, now is the owner of Tilley Harley Davidson. And so Derek and I started riding motorcycles together, and we rode for about a year. He didn't even know I was a pastor. He didn't have a clue because I never brought it up, and I was just trying to build a friend. And, long story short, he gives his life to Christ. We become like best buddies. And so it opened up the door for a motorcycle ministry that I had for 15 or 16, 17 years called Toolin' in Town. And basically we took a bike night and did it in downtown Statesville, and it just allowed me to build a lot of rapport with a lot of people. And so I started getting invited to the Bristol rides. So back in the day, all the drivers would meet at Tilley's, and they'd ride their motorcycles to Bristol.
Okay.
And, NPR guys, or not, Motorsports Outreach guys would be there. Who are the commentators? What's that called? PRN, thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So those guys would all be, what is it, Mike Katz? Was that his name? Or Mike, I can't remember. He was a huge man. But he would always ride his BMW, and, there'd be...
Mike, yes.
Helton, yeah.
That's it.
So
President of NASCAR?
Yeah, he's the one we
own his camper.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those guys would all be there, and old school guys would be there. So one morning we were at Tilley's, the new one over on Moorland Drive, and there's this like older, obnoxious dude who he's like a stud. Like, he's got the hair, he's got the boots, the jeans, he's got this T-shirt, has some kind of whack logo that's going to offend anybody that he wore. And I'm asking one of the mechanics at the time, Neil Taylor, I'm like, who is that guy? And he's like, that's Buddy Parrott. Well, I didn't know who Buddy was, but I had seen his motorcycles in the old Tilley's, his and Rusty Wallace's, and they always had superchargers on them, and they were always like decked out. And Buddy had, I think it was a Softail that he had a big Parrott on, and so, but this time he had a V-Rod, and I had a Honda VTX 1800. That I was riding, and a lot of like I don't know. I think we dial it into like 118 foot-pounds of torque, or horsepower on the rear wheel. And I love going fast. So Neil goes to introduce Buddy and I, and he was like, Buddy, you ought to give that V-Rod a try against this VTX. So that was there were the similar motorcycles of two different brands, Harley Davidson and Honda. And so Buddy's, he's just like, hey, he calls somebody while we're talking. He was like, hey, I need you to make me a T-shirt. Like, I wasn't born in the South, but I got here as fast as I could. And I thought, this dude's pretty cool. Yeah. So we head out, and Buddy's, I'm in the back, because I hadn't earned the right to be up any closer in the front than what I was. And we were pretty much there as guests. And I had gone on a couple of these, but so Buddy pulls out on the interstate, and we're going down 40, and I didn't realize he had a supercharger in this one. Like, he had a turbo up underneath the seat, and I should have known better, And so I heard him, and he was like he was running in second or third gear, but we're running like 70 or 80 miles an hour, and I'm like, it's so loud, it's like obnoxious, and I'm like, he's hanging out there waiting. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And so I cruise up behind him, and about the time we see one another, like we get side by side, we take off, like everybody behind us says that they can hear it. Like 2 miles, we're 2 miles ahead of them, and they can still hear us like we're next to them. Sure. When we slowed down, I'm not going to tell you how fast we were going, but when we slowed down to 80, it felt like I could get off my motorcycle. Wow. And so we rode to Tom Johnson's campground, and they had a big dinner for us, and, everybody's like, Buddy pulls into one of our buddies, and one of our buddies who knows Buddy, he says, you didn't make that preacher cuss, did you? And Buddy's like, what preacher? He goes, the one you've been racing for the last 50 miles. He goes, do what? And it was hilarious, man. The girl from Ironworks was there, and they did a big promo piece on us. And she came up and she said, what's all this about? I said, well, some people say that the devil makes them do it. I just always say Buddy makes me do it. And so it was a good interaction. A lot of people got a lot of giggles out of that. So amazing awesome guy, super intelligent, and really good at what he did.
He's a legend in NASCAR. He was. I'll tell you a story about him right quick. I think it was 1974. He was on pit road, and they had an accident with Don Miller. You know Don Miller? Yeah. And he was catch can on this car, and then he got his leg cut off or down to. Anyway, Buddy Parrott comes along, pulls off his belt, wraps it around his leg, and saves his life. Yeah.
Wow.
They said if he hadn't have done that, then he probably wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. Wow.
So how cool is that?
That's amazing. So he was crew chief for who?
He was crew chief for Rusty Wallace for
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did their championship with the Blue Max.
Yeah, Blue Max.
The 27
okay.
car.
Yeah.
And he was with, let's see, 1979, I believe he was a crew chief. Maybe it was DieGuard whenever they actually won.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was around. He always had the parrot luck. He was with Penske for a while, and it just seems like every team he went to, he had like just things just fell into place. You know, like the caution would come out, everybody else comes on pit road, he stays out, caution comes out, so then he's leading the race. You know, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
just the parrot luck.
Parrot luck. That's cool. That's cool.
So you know, his son Todd Parrott was a crew chief.
Yeah.
For Robert Yates Racing in different places, and then also Brad Parrott. And Brad Parrott's still in racing. I just texted him the link to this show, so maybe he'll
that's cool.
show it to his dad.
Yeah, so it was I was kind of starstruck when I put two and two together that, you know, I've just basically raced from Statesville, North Carolina to Morganton, and then from Morganton to Irwin, Tennessee. Yeah. The real thing was that we didn't, you know, when you go through Irwin, Tennessee, like cops are everywhere, and Tennessee is like strict. And like I blew 2 pairs of sunglasses off my face. Oh, that's how fast we were going. And we got up there. It was just like, it was a big no-no for everybody that was on the race. They were like on the ride. I think they were all mad. Oh, sure. But Buddy and I were giggling and just having a big time. And
did you get any bugs in your teeth?
Oh man, that bugs were hitting you like rocks, like somebody was shooting a gun at you. You know, but that bike was fast, and you know he'd pull away from me about 8 feet, and then we'd just stay there. You know.
Sure.
So
you still have a bike?
Yeah. It's not riding much, but. Just ever since my daughter was born, but I love riding motorcycles. Yeah. I love horsepower. Like if I'm driving, it's going to have some, it's going to have some oomph to it.
You should do the Kyle Petty charity ride.
You know, I've thought about that a lot. Just it never fell into what I wanted to do, and didn't have the money to take with me to go do it. So, you know, and that's the deal. It's a fundraiser ride. So, but I mean, lots and lots and lots of my buddies have done it over the years. So, yeah.
Good stuff. I was there for the very first one whenever he got back from the ride, and we were down at Sandwich Construction Company in Charlotte. That's 1995.
Cool. Yeah.
When Kyle comes in, because I was jackman for him back then.
Oh.
So so we were there. Some of the guys were there waiting on him to come back from that.
Yeah.
A little bit of history there.
So we've done a little bit of all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I forget all these stories until somebody mentions a certain situation, and then the elevator brings them back up. So I've had a very, very blessed life, and been able to do a lot of things.
You have.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. That's great. So how old were you when you come here from Florida?
So we moved around a lot as a kid. Basically my teenage years my early development years like a country song. So my dad would cheat on my mom, and then she would threaten to leave, and then, you know, he would convince her to stay, almost like a George Strait song. But then we would move. So we moved around in Florida, and then we moved to northern Alabama, where all the Burgesses are from. And then we moved to Greenville, South Carolina. And then they split for about 7 years, from 10 to 17. And during that time, I went buck wild. And when I was 15, so I was a real overweight kid growing up. I don't know if you want to know all this, but I'm going to tell you. So I was a real overweight kid growing up, and every day I get on the school bus, kids would like punch me in my stomach like I was the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was just like it was kind of like Forrest Gump. You know, you can't sit here. Yeah. You know, and so they'd poke me in my stomach and punch me in my stomach. And one day I got home, and my mom after football practice saw all these bruises on my stomach, and she was like, "Where you get all them bruises from?" And so I was just like, "Look, Mom, it's not football. Here's what happens." And little Loretta, she don't play. She's a coal miner's daughter from Virginia, and she was like, "Boy, let me tell you something. You come home with another bruise on your stomach, I'm going to wear you out." And I thought to myself, get a whooping from my mama? I mean, I've been whooped with everything, from sticks to switches to siphoning hoses. I mean, whatever she could get to, you got a whipping with. I thought, get a whipping from her or take it from myself. So the next day I got on the school bus, first kid went punch me on my stomach, and then they'd go, "Hey, hey, hey, here comes Fat Brian," like the Fat Albert song. I just clocked him. Pow! And from that moment forward, I got to sit wherever I want to sit. But I exchanged kind of one insecurity for another one. And that was from what I looked like for how well I could use my fists. And so between my 8th grade year and my 9th grade year, I lost about 80 to 100 pounds. And when I went into 9th grade, that was really cool because now I'd always been interested in girls, but now girls are interested in me.
Oh, yeah.
But I still fought. Like, I went to school every day not to learn. I went to school to see who I could fight.
Yeah.
And so I got in a lot of trouble. I got kicked out of school and put under house arrest. And that's when I got saved and gave my life to Christ. I was I was out of school, and I thought I need to do something educational. And my mom had a big red Bible that sat on a coffee table, and like I had to clean the house every day. And so my mom threatened to whip me. She was like, "Look, you ain't gonna lay around here all day. You're gonna clean this house. If you don't clean this house, I'm gonna whoop you when I get home." I was like, "Clean the house or get a whip? I'm gonna clean the house." So I did, and then after I'd clean, I made a commitment that I would read one chapter a day, and I started in the Gospel of Mark. I didn't even know it was the Gospel of Mark. I just had a friend named Mark, and he was cool. And there were only 16 chapters, and I hated reading. Reading was to me like NyQuil is to the nighttime sniffling and sneezing, man. It just knocked me out. But when I started reading it, it lit a fire in me I couldn't get over. And it was really cool, though, because Jesus would confront the religious, and he was really tough on them, and I thought that was cool. Because when I was out partying on Friday and Saturday nights, I mean, I started smoking weed when I was 10, okay?
Yeah.
I was riding down the road with a buddy of mine, and he had an older brother. We were in a 1979 Nova, and he digs around in the ashtray, and he pulls out what, you know, as a 10-year-old, I'm like, that's like wadded up toilet paper. Like, what is that?
I know. I was around it too. Sorry, Mom.
When he lit it up, I was like, that's like a burnt skunk. Like, what, what is that? And so...
you ever seen the meme with the skunk smoking?
No, I hadn't seen it. So anyway, I mean, we were just wild. And when I was out doing what I was doing on Friday and Saturday night, all the church kids were with me. The only difference was they got up and went to church on Sunday mornings, and my thought was, well, if what you have isn't more effective, then I'm gonna stay in the bed. Yeah. And because I knew a few church kids, I like to give one of those to. And I'm not a violent guy.
You saw what it would get you, though. You got what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but then he took people that were like what I felt like, you know, look, I always say when we were kids, we were so poor. I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken to lick other people's fingers, man. But he would take the people that were on the margin of society, kind of the outcasts, and he would take them just as they were, but he wouldn't leave them the same way he found them, to the point that when he got ready to leave them, after he'd done something extraordinary in their life, whether redeemed them or healed them or set them free from demonic control or performed a great miracle in their life, they all said, "I'll follow you." And I was spellbound at that moment. And then I kept reading until I read the 14th, 15th, 16th chapter where he was brutalized and hung on a cross. And I didn't have a preacher around me. I didn't know what a youth pastor was. I had no idea what your Sunday best was, but I just got out of my chair. I got down on one knee. I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday afternoon. And I just said, you know, Jesus, if you could do this for me, then I'll live for you. And it lit up. I mean, it was a totally different world for me. And so I was 15 years old. I'm 47 and never been the same, nor do I want to be the same. And so super grateful for that. So from there, I felt called to ministry then. And I moved to Boiling Springs, North Carolina. I did my undergrad, my master's at Gardner-Webb. So in 99, latter part of 98, then to 99, I got here. And so I guess I was maybe 22, 23, somewhere around there when I got here. I guess I could do the math. 76 and 99 is 23. So yeah. Right. So yeah, I was 23 when I moved here. I had hair and a waistline and muscles.
76, yeah.
And a Ford Ranger.
The old Ford Ranger, man. Yeah. Those things are bulletproof.
Oh, they're amazing.
Your story about you being overweight and that type of stuff, it reminds me of a guy that I went to high school with.
Were you on that bus?
And I was on that bus, and I was like, look at that guy over there. No, it wasn't. No, there was a guy named, they called him Biscuit because he was so big, right? He got picked on a whole lot, okay? Yeah. And then actually during football, we were standing on the bus together, and I was in front of him. They'd like, "Hey, look, Ham, Biscuit." Anyway.
Oh,
Ham,
are
Biscuit.
You serious?
Yeah.
Man.
But this guy, he was kind of small, but he got big, and then he got big, like working out.
Like muscular.
And then this kid that was always picking on him, nobody picked on him ever again, not that I know of, because he was bigger than everybody. Oh, yeah. But he went from being a little kid to a big
baby
kid,
fat dude, yeah.
And being picked on to being big.
Yeah, I had a few of those guys that I ran into over the years afterwards, and we had some come to Jesus meetings. Yeah. You know, so, but it was good.
That's great.
It was good. So yeah.
Traci, you want to say hey to anybody? Anybody?
Oh, let's see. Robert Sturt's listening.
Hey, Julio.
Danny and Grays is listening.
Yes, they're right here in town. I got to figure out what the name of their place is. They got the card shop. They got like souvenirs and
Cards
things
and
there.
Toys? Is it Danny and Grace Cards and Toys? Is that what it is?
Well,
no. It's right down here on Center Street on the left.
Oh, okay.
And then there used to be a yoga place there. Is that where they're at?
I'm not sure.
I told him to come
tell
up
us
here
where
sometime.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah, come up to the show sometime. We'll
That's cool.
talk about your business. That'd be good. Oh, I was going to ask you. Okay, so do you remember running into a rock group, Prep and Barium?
Oh, heck yes. Dude, those guys are amazing.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to tell the story?
Well, go ahead. I'll tell you how I know them.
Yeah, how do you know them?
Okay, so their guitar player, he was a tire changer back when I was with Kyle. Well, let's see. That year was with Nemechek. Anyway.
How do you know that I met them?
I saw it on your Facebook.
Oh, my Facebook.
I went on there to find some pictures.
Yeah.
That's where I found that picture. You said it was an old picture. That's Kyle right there.
Wow. Yeah. He was in the van that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
So I sent him the link to this.
Yeah, so
show,
I was at I had just put a stereo system in my son's Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah.
And we were getting gas, and my daughter was there. And the guys from the band got out of like this, sketchy 80s blacked out van, and it's totally, we're in a band, we're a band, and they are dropping the F-bomb like it's M&M's falling out of a dispensary.
I know.
And I can't get the window up, and so I, all of a sudden this guy just keeps getting louder, and he gets closer to where my vehicle is, and so I pretty much yell at him like, "Hey, my daughter is in this truck, and you need to shut up right now, or I'm gonna help you."
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, and then he went over and was like, hey guys, let's cool it for a second. And then I kind of felt bad. I got convicted about my attitude, and so I went over and was like, hey man, listen, I appreciate you guys. Y'all could have handled that way different, and it could have gone totally different too. And they're still kind of looking at me like, who is this bald, dude with his head stuck in our van? But we just made a connection. And then I started following them. Mm-hmm. They're brilliant. Like their music is like, it's like if I'm trying to think, like take the best of hair metal. And with a little bit of like hard rock, and Prep and Barium is it. And so I listen to them now all the time when I'm working out. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Good story. I actually went down and saw them at one of their houses. They had a nice big stage there in the backyard.
Yeah, they stay pretty busy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to. They're all, if I'm like, if I see them in Charlotte, they're like, please come down and make sure you say hello. So yeah, I need to follow up on that promise.
Well, good. Tell them Ham. Tell them you know Ham too.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah. I'm not much of a dude that's like if there are women and children around and you're like public obscenities. I don't know what's happened to me. Like from about 44 years old to 45, I just can't take that. Like I guess I'm kind of like Augustus McCall or Lonesome Dove. I hate rude behavior in a man. I ain't gonna tolerate it.
I'm with you there.
Well, I just grew up in a generation where even so we had a dude that his name was. Actually, his name was Julio, and he was a painter in our town, and nobody could paint like him. Now, you had to give him a 12-pack for him to paint well, but had the worst mouth ever. But if a woman or a child walked into his shop, dude, you would have thought he was a Sunday school teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just thinking, that it's just a different breed. Like that, like okay,
it's a sign of respect.
It really is a sign of respect.
Yes,
and I just think we've lost it in our world, and I just think there's a few men that need to be reminders of respect. So there's two main words I kind of live by: respect and flexibility. Like if you give respect, you should receive it. You try to respect people and things and stuff like that.
I'm with you there.
And then flexibility, because nothing ever works out like you thought it was, And so if you can stay a little more flexible and not get your undies in a wad, you can discover God's grace and His plan and a whole lot of different things. So, and life is really hard. Like, I've been through a lot of seasons in my life to where I've lost very good friends and very good family members and sometimes been betrayed by people that you didn't think would ever be betrayed by. And if you just let that stuff just sit on you and simmer in you, you will become a curmudgeon.
Sure.
But I just learned to laugh and learned to try to be flexible and give grace to people. And then my bull meter's gone though. like First Lady Angie, she always worries about me. She says, you're going to go to jail one day. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? She goes, because sometimes you don't need to say anything. I said, but if everybody doesn't say something, then who's going to say something?
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
but I try to have the right perspective with it, because it could get out of hand. So, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing I could say.
Your listeners are probably like, why did you invite this guy to
No.
What were you going to say? Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
Oh, no. Heck no.
You're going to diss me. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
I'm used to it.
Don't do that to Ham Delight.
No, I wouldn't dare. Wouldn't dare do
You
that.
wouldn't dare.
No. So all right. Let's take a quick break and last break, and then we'll be right back to Racing Roots with Ham and Pastor Burgess. There you go. I keep saying
Brian.
Reverend. It's Rev. Brian. We'll be right back.
You know, we talk a lot about buying local and doing business with local folks. And what better place than doing your banking than with a local bank? Doug Hendricks from Blue Harbor Bank, what's the story?
Billy, we have a great story. The bank has just done so well. What most of our stockholders, board members, customers, employees, everybody is right from Iredell County. The bank is very committed to Statesville and to Iredell County. We have a ton of customers all over the county. We just feel really good about being the type of bank that a community needs. When you come in the bank, hopefully you have an experience. People know your name when you come in, which is wonderful. So I would say that the thing that differentiates us is the fact that we have everything that those other banks have, but we just deliver it in a more personal manner.
Thanks, Doug. Blue Harbor Bank, now at 108 North Trad Street in downtown Statesville.
The Iredell Home and Garden Show is coming April 14th and 15th. This is the only event of this type in Iredell County. Now you can solve all of your projects in one place in just one weekend at the Iredell Home and Garden Show. Located at the Statesville Civic Center, you'll find the latest services and products for your home or garden. Builders, landscapers, interior designers, decks, pools, spas, furniture, building materials, entertainment systems, fireplaces, storage, and so much more. If you or your company would like to exhibit at the show, go to IredellHomeShow.com for more information or to register.
550 and 92.9 Real Country WAME.
And we're back to Racing Roots with Ham. And we got Brian Burgess in with us. If y'all know him from the morning show with Billy Buck, he's here on Wednesdays. Yeah, from 6 to 10 or 7 to 10, something like that. Whenever you get here.
Yes, because it's like normally something will go on in the morning, or my family will need me at some point. So I'm normally here by 6:30 because I do the Rev is Right at 6:15. So, or no, 6:40, 6:55.
6:55, yes, that's it.
So just try to take a little piece out of life and just talk about it.
Tell the truth. That's what it is.
I try. Yeah, we
truth.
try. At least, hopefully, it's not just my version of the truth. So it's cool.
I like your shirt too. You can't cancel patriotism.
Yeah, man, can't cancel patriotism. It's been so crazy. Just
cancel culture.
Yeah, cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's always been. It's we talk about it as new names, old demons. It's just it's recapitulated, and so, but people can't take a joke,
right?
We're constantly lied to on media and everything. It's we have our own false prophets today. You hear so much about just you can be anything you want to be in this world right now, except a right wing. Yeah. Well, I hate to even say that because I don't even trust the right wing anymore. A Bible believing evangelical born again Christian.
Yeah.
That's tough. We're the outlaw. We literally we are the alternative lifestyle of our culture now.
Yeah.
We finally did see a commercial on TV. Remember seeing that, David?
Yeah, last night. Mm-hmm. And I wondered, and I got thinking about that today, and I was wondering if there was something else meant to that, if that was sort of like a backhand compliment in a way. I don't remember what it was for, but it did. It mentioned Jesus, and it said.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact word of it, but it was talking about all the hate in the world.
Basically, it said Jesus forgave, and he loved, and he forgave sinners. Or
we don't hate people. I just hate the overall methodology that's just getting pushed down everybody's throat.
Yeah,
you have no option, and just the crazy things that we're seeing now pushed on our kids. You know, look, if you're in the kindergarten or preschool from 8th grade, you should just have to worry about learning vocabulary words, math, arithmetic. You know, we used to call it arithmetic, and how to kick a ball off the playground. You know, and kickball, or how to take your best buddy's head off, and you know. But the fact that now we have to become oversensitive to everything. Yeah. You know, it's marginalizing more people than it ever is. I think the best analogy of teaching how important life is in biology. Because let's just think about it, and let's say you and I are in a crowd of multi-racial, multi-ethnic crew, and you and I both know CPR. Nobody else in the crew does. And there's one person next to us that falls over unconscious, and they need CPR. At that moment of greatest importance of bringing life back into their body, I'm not worried about whether they're male or female. I'm not worried about their color. I'm not worried about their culture. I'm worried about one thing that binds us all together. You got a heart and a heartbeat, and I've got one. And I'm going to do everything I can in my power to help you get that back. And if that's the most important thing at the most pivotal moment of your life, it's not that I'm overlooking someone's gender. It's not that I'm overlooking someone's ethnicity. It's not that I'm overlooking your demographic background. It's just that when it comes to being a human before you or even being your friend, it's not the most important thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
But our world just cannot get that. And here's the problem. We're raising a generation of narcissists. A narcissist is a person who either says or demonstrates, they say it with their words or they demonstrate it with their actions, me first. Me first. And we're being pretty successful at it. Our curriculum is me first. We diversify everything for me first. Marriages are falling apart because of me first. And it's, you know, Jesus gives us the best word, humble yourself. And when you can humble yourself, you can just see life way different. And when you humble yourself, it's easier to become a servant and to bless people and encourage people and to try to make the day better. You know, my thought is this, is that I want to be that guy that when I go on vacation, people enjoy being around me so much that they're like, daggone it, man. We didn't think you were ever going to get back from vacation. Yeah. You know, the people that you work with. I don't want to be the guy that we're like, oh, man.
He's back.
Praise God, that guy's gone. And we got 7 days without this moron. You know, you want to be the person, you want to be the guy or the girl that when you go on vacation, people are like, oh, my, this place about fell apart when you weren't here. Glad you're back, bro. It's good to have you here, you know.
Well, and, you know, I went through a little bit of this, or a lot of this, whenever I left racing, and then I went back after my dad passed away. You know, and but I went back as really what I felt like a different person. You know, I felt like I was. I look at people now, and even people that I work with and whatever, and I think, you know, everybody's kind of got their own story. You know, everybody's got their own worries, and they got their own reasons, and you know, I'm not in competition with anybody else in that building. You know, and I shouldn't be. You know, it's
you know, and that's where I love like this. Life is like racing. All of us have an engine. It's a soul. Yeah. Okay? And depending on what we've been through, depends on how well that soul's going to run, that engine's going to run.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
And, you know, some of us are on enduros. Others of us kind of run an oval track. Some of us are on, you know,
road courses.
Yeah, road courses and things like that.
Short track.
But here's the thing.
Dirt track.
Nobody is amassing to watch one guy race. They're amassing to watch one guy or girl to race among others. And the crazy thing is that in the middle of that competition, they really need one another. I mean, the power of a draft blows my mind.
True. Yeah.
That there can be 5-6 cars get in a line with one another and literally push past. It literally blows my mind.
Right.
That they can do that. And you watch people, you know, we talk about climate and culture, you know, in your household, on this, you know, on this podcast, in a church, in a business. How do you develop climate and culture? All that is drafting. It's getting people lined up so that the entire team wins, or because maybe your soul's a little cleaner than mine. Maybe you hadn't put it through as much mess as mine has, or I've jammed the gears, or my team, the people that I've had around me, maybe they have the education that you had or something like that. But the fact that the lead guy's going faster, he ought to make the race better for everybody.
True. Yeah. It's like lead by example.
Oh, very
lead
much
by
so.
doing the right thing. Lead by, and be a positive person too, and be happy. And people tend to follow that more. And that's a positive thing put on their lives.
Oh yeah. And then there are times that, you get your shot sling past them. You follow them long enough to be in that draft, and you follow them long enough to learn what you can, and then you have your moment in the sun.
Yeah.
And but you still come back to the racetrack next week. You adult again tomorrow, and just don't quit. That's the biggest thing, is quitting is not an option. And there have been a few seasons in my life where I wanted to quit. There's been a few seasons in my life I wanted to say, forget this. Just whatever level of darkness and trash that was in my carburetor was getting into my head and, making me spit and sputter. And thankfully, there was just always a thought that God's grace is sufficient, and one more day. And so I kind of have this thing, I'm not going to quit today. I might quit tomorrow. And then when I get to tomorrow, I'm like, okay, tomorrow's today, so I've already made a decision. I can't quit today, I'll quit tomorrow.
Yes.
And so you just keep pushing yourself to push back all that stuff, because if you're always mad you're in the back of the line, well, at some point you got to realize what you've been doing is not working. So you gain a little emotional intelligence, and you figure out, okay, I'm done being in the back of the line. It doesn't mean you're a narcissist. It just means you need to develop some better skills, to push back. And so, again, that's I love the analogies that you guys put out here, and the stories that you tell. And I love picking up on some of that stuff because it's so applicable to life.
Well, and speaking of talking about my dad, he was a huge race fan his whole life. That was probably my biggest. Well, obviously that was my biggest influence as far as going into the racing thing. But I learned a lot from him throughout the years. I think he made me tougher in certain situations. Like he was. That kind of stuff. But in the very end, I learned so much more from him with his patience and his, no matter what was going on, I had to take care of him in his most vulnerable moments. Yeah. It was tough. It was tough for him too. But he always kept his composure, and he's very, very kind and gentle, and more so than I ever saw in my whole life. But there toward the end, whenever he had Alzheimer's, but there was times where he just said with so much clarity. One day I asked him where, he said, I'm going to be leaving here just out of the blue, and I'm like, well, where are you going, Dad? He said, I'm going to be going to heaven. And we're just like, me and Mom were sitting down there and just look at each other. Did he just say that? And he never really talked about it growing up, never talked about a lot of things, but there toward the end, he talked about that. So I got out my phone. I went over and just started talking to him, asking questions and all this stuff. I wanted to record all this, and I did. I got a lot of it.
You did. And I'm going to tell you, Ham, I've known you we met pretty much about before COVID.
Yeah, it's 4 years, I guess.
Yeah, about 4 years. And so at first I didn't know who you were. I was just like this dude's insane.
It's weirdo.
But the more I began to know you and follow your story, and then realized how you were taking care of your dad, I think that's the reason why you probably have gone back to work to Yates, and you see people differently because you took care of your dad for what, 9 years?
Yeah.
For 9 years.
Moved him up from Gastonia to,
Yeah. And so 9 years of training that it can't always be about you, and love really does bind the heart to take care and give. And, you didn't push that care off on someone else, even though you guys had help at certain seasons, and I think it's pretty amazing. The other thing I value is that, you always are documenting, like you're recording, you're taking pictures. And one of my best friends died about 4 years ago. 5 years we're going up. Now, the song's true. You can't make old friends. I mean, once they're gone, you can't make old friends. You can make new friends. But when you know those people in your life that know you, that even if you have a bad day, they just look at you, they'll listen, and be like, all right, get your junk together and let's get out of this, But you documenting, taking pictures. Like, people laugh at me all the time. Like, if we're around one another before we leave tonight, I want to take a picture with you guys. Why? So that if God were to take you before he takes me, I have a physical memory that I can go back to. And up until these moments, I didn't even think to do that. And so when I started seeing you document all that you had, and for some of you guys, you don't know, I was privileged to be able to stand in with the Hamm family and do your dad's eulogy and his burial. And I love the story you told. Like, so Hamm's Hamm's grandparents were super, super strict. Like, they were teetotaler Baptist. Like, and if you don't know what that is, that means no drinking, no dancing, no card playing. Don't even let a hint of any kind of immorality be among you. And I guess your dad, especially when he went on vacation, he drank.
Yes.
Look, so get this in your mind. They're in Cherry Grove. Little Hamm is there with Mama and Papa. Did you call them Mama and Papa?
Yeah,
or what
sure did.
Yeah.
Mama and Papa.
Yeah, that was, you had to be from the 1900s to appreciate it. Nobody's a Mama anymore. Like, what's up with that? Like, they're Gigi's and Mimi's and Sweet Gigi. Mama. Like, somebody showed me a Mama, you know?
I'm still Papa, so.
Yeah, so Hamm's sitting there with his grandparents, Mama and Papa, eating, and there's a guy over at the table away from him that has, I think it was a Coors Light.
Yeah, some kind of beer.
Yeah, some kind of beer.
That's before Coors was up here, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah.
And so Hamm's like, oh, that guy's drinking from a can like my daddy drinks. Yes. And it was the first time that his mama and papa realized that their son drank alcoholic beverages.
That's
and
right.
So I just think that's the best story ever.
Yeah.
I can't believe I remember that.
That was one of the reasons I got on my dad's nerves a lot of times.
Yeah, because you talk too much. He'd say you talk too much.
Never shut up. You talk too much. Yes. Yep. But you know, there toward the end too, my dad, I think one of the other things I took away from him was not to fear death. Okay. And I looked at him so many times trying to see if he was, because I wanted to feel that. I wanted to take that off of him. I didn't want him worrying about death. So I talked to him about God and different things. And I never saw fear of death in him. No. He would sit there and he would look up at the ceiling and he would start talking about his mama and his daddy and it was just like, do you see him? I mean, Tracy's even asked him, do you see him, Dad? Do you see him, Pops? You know, and it was just like, you know, God was coming down, putting, it's hard to say.
Reassuring him that he was safe to come.
Right,
yeah.
Bringing in acute awareness. You know, since I've been pastor at Buelah, one of these days I'll write a book about all this when I have time to slow down from raising 4 kids and pastoring a church or just making time. I guess I got to get up earlier, and I already get up early, so I don't know what that's going to be like. But since I've been pastor at Buelah, some of our older saints, like, I have seen the most extraordinary things. Like Dola Van is one of our guys that he was at a nursing home, or assisted living. He had just gotten through breakfast. He was walking back to his room. His nurse said, Dola, I'll be there in a few moments to give you your medicine. And she heard him say, hey, hold on, I can't run that fast. And had his hand reached out like he was reaching for somebody and just collapsed in the floor and was gone.
Wow.
Other men and women, a few moments before they passed, reaching up with just the biggest smile on their face. Women I've heard say, can't y'all see him? He's right there. He's about to get me. Talking about the Lord. Yeah. You know, so all of these kind of just last moment reassurances. You know, and you know, your dad was a part of what they call the silent generation. So, you know, those guys were the guys that worked hard. You know, there were parents. They were born from parents from basically World War II.
That's right.
And they were taught to work hard because their moms and dads were kids during the Great Depression. And so they didn't talk a lot. They worked hard. They showed their love by providing. You know, and so sometimes it's difficult to talk to people like that about their faith because they're so private about everything. But it's very interesting to see that acute awareness as they get older about the most important things, even when the mind is fleeting. And so for your dad to say with clarity, you know, I'm going to go to heaven if God will have me. Yeah. And that probably is one of the best sinner's confessions I've ever heard. You know, I want to go to heaven if God will have me. Yeah. And, you know, it's just a humility and a realizing you're going to stand before a judgment throne one day and just a tenderness to say, I need God's mercy. I need God's grace. I need God's love. I got a snowball chance in Hades of getting there unless God forgives me of my sins and does something. So those are, I count it a privilege to have witnessed those moments, and you be able to tell those, and Traci and your mom tell me those moments about your dad. That makes it much easier. Yeah. Sherman, is that right? What do y'all call him?
Stoney.
Yeah, Stoney.
Stoney says, "Loved your dad. You were the son that every father wants."
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I don't know about that, Stoney.
Yeah.
No, I was just kidding. I was just kidding.
Well, you know.
Yeah, but definitely to care for him for 9 years and to make sure he had excellent care. And not just him, but your mom was there too.
Yes, he is.
Right? So,
yes.
Yeah, mom's good people.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Speaking of that,
I felt privileged.
I think I left
my
my walking cap at the graveside. I don't know if anybody picked up a walking cap, but my wife got it for me for Christmas, and I've yet to find it since that funeral. So I don't know where it's at. I guess somebody needed it more than I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know what a walking cap is.
It's like one of those. What are those? It's a Netflix thing. The Pickney Downies, or it was like the Mob Boys back in the day.
Oh.
Just that old man walking cap,
I think
where they would put the razor
it's like
blades in
my
them.
dad used to wear.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know. I've gotten to where I love those caps, largely because I have no hair. I'm bald, and so yeah.
My dad has one because those are the kind that his great grandfather. I have a picture of his great grandfather. So my dad wanted one like that to be like him.
Yeah.
That's the other thing my dad would talk about family more and family and old family. Or ancestors, and I was like, Dad, I didn't realize you knew that about the ancestors, you know, because I'm the guy that seems I know all about our ancestries and ancestry and all that
That's
stuff.
what blew me away too when I was like, when you were like, "Good day, mate," I was like, somebody really hit this guy in the head. Like, he is not Australian. And then to find out your grandmother was truly an Aussie.
Yes.
And I was like, well, shut my mouth. Like, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, man, until you know the story.
That's why my dad was made in Australia.
Yeah.
And I always say shipped over here in a container in my grandmother's belly, you know, and on a ship.
Another Hammism.
Yeah,
I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
But so we're talking about death, and that's the thing. I think when you reach a certain point in your life when you're not scared of death, that's like it kind of changes you in a way, because then it's like, you know what, I'm not worried about it, so I can kind of continue on and just live life to the fullest. Yeah, really.
Well, and hopefully we don't wait till the end to not fear death. Mm-hmm. You know, like I watched my uncle. He was a sheriff in northern Alabama. He was like my hero. I mean, they called him Big BR. He was Buford Rufus Burgess. And I was Little BR, Brian Burgess, you know. And he was probably at the time, when I did his funeral, I had men come up and say he was the most powerful sheriff in northern Alabama. Mm. And so he's actually been dead now 5 years. I think it's been 5 years, just this past February. And, Buford was a Russian linguistic cryptologist in the Air Force in the Korean War. So basically he interpreted Russian code. Mm-hmm. Then he came back. He was a police officer. He was very involved in the community. Then he was a state trooper. And then he was appointed sheriff. And then he finished out his career as a sheriff. But he was always agnostic. And waited until he was like 83 years old to give his life to Christ. Mm-hmm. And basically when we baptized him, they had to basically like carry him down into the water, mm-hmm. to make his profession of faith public. And I hate that, because he and I were always close, but when I surrendered to ministry, like, he didn't know what to do with me. So law enforcement guys, when they, and maybe not everybody, but when I would go to these sheriff's conventions, like there was a lot of drinking that went on. And I'll never forget when my aunt, she worked for the DOT, when she had a retirement party, I went to see them and celebrate that with them. And Buford at the time wasn't strong enough to go pick up this keg. And he was like, well, Dot, I'm not gonna be able to get the keg in the car. She goes, well, Buford, you got little BR. He goes, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, but he's a reverend now. And she was like, dang it, Buford, he's still your nephew. So
yes, I know what you're saying.
You don't have to wait till your mind's about gone to not fear death.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us that because Christ is risen, that death has lost its sting. The grave has lost its victory. Now, look, I don't want to burn to death. I probably don't want to be stabbed to death either. Mm. And I definitely don't want to fall out of the sky at 30,000 feet. But I know the scripture says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord.
Yeah.
And so whenever I take my last breath here, I'm going to take my first breath in heaven. And that price has been paid for me. So, if you're listening to us tonight or you're listening to this later on down the line, you don't have to fear death. Christ has conquered death. And get on the side of Christ. Get on the side of the victor. I always say, Jesus never been scored on, never had a losing season. And he beat death by being raised from the dead. And that's why we celebrate Easter. Is that it's victory over sin, choosing my way over God's. It's victory over the grave and death, because the wages of sin is death. It was what was issued at the garden when Adam and Eve chose their way over God's. So Christ in his sinlessness makes the sacrifice that sin can be paid for. And then when he's raised from the dead, death, hell, and the grave is destroyed. So you don't have to be afraid of death. Now, again, I like to go to bed one night and say my prayers, kiss my wife, and tell my children that I love them, hopefully, and maybe my grandchildren, if God tarries, so I can live a long life, do some more good. But I envy those people that go to bed at night and then they never wake up again. And they wake up in glory.
That's it. That's exactly right. And that was one of my fears for my dad. I thought he's going to fall, he's going to break a hip, and then he's going to end up dying that way. I don't want that to happen in a hospital, that kind of thing. But it worked out the way that it's supposed to had worked out. And it worked out the way that God wanted it to work out. And it's like he beat us, talking about the racing. He got the checkered flag, before I did. And I try to look at that. You see people, your friends, especially the older we get, our classmates will pass away.
Fighting stuff right now.
How you've seen that meme.
As we get older,
you've seen that meme on social media that says, "Man, I just saw these old people out at the store today." And then as I walked back to my car, I realized I graduated high school with them.
That's it, man.
I think that's hilarious.
You go into a grocery store and the people checking you out is little kids. It looks like they're 15 years old. It looks like.
It's like, hey, buddy. Do you even know how to shave yet? So.
Hey, Sonny.
Yeah. So even our classmates and folks like that are going through things.
But whenever I hear one passing, though, I think, all right, you know what? They're seeing the glory. They beat us to heaven. Hopefully, yes. Yeah. They're ahead of us. Yeah. And from everything that I've hear and other people's testimonies and things are witnessed. Yeah. And these things that I've now witnessed, whatever. It's like it's not a bad thing. You
have comfort in that.
Yeah. There used to be years ago a guy named Jake Hess who sung in a gospel group called the Blackwood Brothers. Those guys were hated probably in the early '60s and '70s because they're now they're loved and revered as Southern gospel, old like Bill Gaither folks. But when they came out, they had that no, like they had that real like disco sound. But Jake Hess used to sing this song called "Death Ain't No Big Deal." And someday when I take my final breath, when the doctor takes one look and says you're dead, the truth is going to finally be revealed. Death ain't no big deal. I'm going to basically pass through the stars, and I'm going to be at home with the Lord. And so it's a really cool song. It's not it's kind of comedic, but it really is the truth. If you know where you're going, and the price has been paid for you in Christ, death is no big deal. But spend your life living, not dying. I'm trying to groom a bunch of men who are younger than me and are my age and even older. And I've discovered among men, there's this stalwartness in us that's like, I'll die for my family, die for my kids, die for my wife, I'd die for my best buddies, My thought is, when have you ever started living for them?
Sure, yeah.
We sometimes say those things to macho ourselves up, but our track record is we hadn't been present. We've given them a whole bunch of empty promises. And if we were to die today, it probably would leave some big questions. Were our wives or were our children enough? Was I really a good buddy to my buddy? Yeah. So that's where I'm trying to challenge specifically men, not to overlook ladies, Don't just die for them, live for them. sacrifice for them, love them, be present, enjoy them, make memories, man. Memories that, get off the couch, burn that recliner. If your butt is so stuck in that recliner, burn it. And not allow yourself to sit stagnant anymore. Get involved with something and live so that when you do die, people are like, man, I really miss him or I miss her, because, your presence was so big in people's lives that it was amazing, people remembered you, and they celebrate you and they tell your stories over and over. And it's because you weren't just like, I'd die for them, man. No, you're just like, I'm living for them, and I want to make the most I can every day.
One of the other things I noticed about, we knew my dad was getting close, but there was one time where I took him to the doctor that week, and then I took him to that same week. I ended up taking him to the hospital.
Right.
And then his doctor called me, and he said he checked on my dad, and he's like, Lord works in mysterious ways, but he said you just have to accept that this is the end. This is the end times for your dad. So, a month went by after that, and we still had my dad.
Yeah.
But it was like but it was almost like first of all, we had a lot of people praying for my dad.
Yeah.
And so it's like he just turned right around and he was doing really good. But we also knew we might not have him for another week.
Right.
And then the next week we'd be like, we don't know if we're going to have him for another week.
Yeah.
And then for that last week, I happened to stayed down there with him like 24/7, it seemed. And then that was whenever he passed. It's almost like it was everything laid out in the right time.
Oh yeah.
But
our days are numbered, man. They are. And I think that's why it's so important. You think about how attentive you got. Like, we may not have him. Like, I often, and again, I speak to men and women, but specifically men. Could you imagine if we had that attitude, not morbidly, but like if we had that attitude every day?
Yeah.
So like before you leave the house, to make sure Ham delight, like you vocally say, I love you. You put your hands on one another, you kiss, you embrace.
Yeah.
You look at your children, you pull them in. You like, every morning I drop, my kids leave, I'm like, look, I always say this one thing. I pray over them and I say the Lord's blessings on you. Because the Bible teaches us to bless people, but I try to put my hands on them. It's to just remind them of my care and my comfort. I just want to encourage our listeners, if you have people in your life, maybe if you're not even a touchy-feely person, get over yourself and reach out and bless the people that are around you, so that if you go before them, they know, I had a hug. There's this little meme on social media where this little toddler is like having an ape fit, man. He's telling his dad and his best. He goes, "Mama, woke, no kiss," and the dad's interpreting it. He's like, "Mama left for work and no kiss." He goes, yeah, and dude, he is wigging out. And he's got his little brother over there in the carrier, and he's like, "No kibble me, no kibble him," And it's like he is tore up. Like, get Mama back here, I just think those things are important, to be attentive. Even the midday text to the person that's important in your life, to just say, "Hey, I love you." I send First Lady texts a lot. She's a principal, and she's an administrator at Coolamy Elementary. And I often send her a text in the middle of the day, like, "Man, I wish I was a fifth grader so I could sit in I'd get in trouble every day just so I could sit in your office. And hopefully you'd paddle me or something, just something fun that way, to just remind, like, I need you in my life."
Yeah, and you never know what kind of day she might be having. She might be stressed out, a parent call and this and that, and then all of a sudden she gets that text and it just makes her day.
Yeah, and that's the other funny thing too, is like when those people that know you best in your life, when they call you or text you, I've watched over the years, even myself, be like aggravated, be like, "Oh, what do they want now?" And then if somebody else calls, you're like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing, man? What can I do for you?" And you spend the next 30 seconds just bull jiving somebody. And could you imagine if we had the opposite attitude, that the people that are closest to us and know us best, that when they call us, we would tell everybody, "Hey, hold up, it's my wife. Hold up, it's my kids. Give me just a second," because that's what's most important. I think it's become a centerpiece for me when my buddy died, is because I realized, as much as I know my church loves me and I love my church, if I die tonight, they'll have my job posted in 2 weeks. But my wife and my kids have got to go on.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is crazy. I'm going to make sure that I'm taking care of them. They're my first ministry. I'm going to take care of myself, and then I'm going to take care of people, which will make me healthier to take care of people. So if you're listening to us and you're not making taking that advantage of loving the people that are around you really tangibly and traceably and publicly, and I want to encourage you to take a step into that. And I definitely saw that with you guys, of how y'all were trying to take care of one another and take care of your dad. And that was great to witness.
Yeah, well, it meant a lot to me for Traci to step it up and and help with my dad. I mean, that was that it really meant more than I can even say in words. Yeah.
It's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful.
And it meant a lot to him too.
Yeah,
you could just see it.
Yeah,
he felt safe.
Yeah,
we were
going to take care of him.
I'm finishing my book. It's called All But 8. And we didn't talk about this, but we are talking about dying. I don't know how we got on to all that, but so I'm writing a book right now called All But 8. And at some point in your life, you got to tell everybody to take a hike except 8 people. And those 8 people are very pivotal. And if we have just a few minutes left, I'd like to share the premise of it.
Absolutely. You got as long as you want.
The first of which is you need to know somebody like me. There's going to be a reverend that's going to stand over your deathbed or your burial plot. And the first day that guy hears your name does not need to be the day that he's told that he's doing your funeral. No matter what you believe out there, you need to find a rev in your life, one that will remind you of Jesus, push you toward Jesus, and not let you live in excuse or live in sin. You need to build a relationship with that guy so he knows you well enough that he ain't got to make up something. He can tell your story well because he knew you. You need a rev in your life. The second person that's going to be there when you die is your spouse and your family. And they need to know that you loved them. They need to know that you gave your undying best to them the very last day that you could remember to love them. And then there are 6 guys or 6 people that are normally called pallbearers. In the old days, before there were coffins, basically they would bring the dead body home, lay it on the kitchen table, and begin to figure out what they do then. And they would put a thick cloth called a pall. So whoever would carry this body to its final resting place were the pall or the garment bearers. Now, I want to challenge every one of you to find at least 6 people who at the sound of your death know you so well that they would call your spouse and say, don't worry about who's going to lay him down. We're going to be there. I want to encourage people to spend their life investing in the people who will lay them down, not let them down. I spent a lot of my life investing in people who have let me down over and over and over. And I'm sure I've let a few folks down over the years too, because none of us are perfect. But I wonder, do you have 6 people in your life that at the sound of your passing, they know you so well that they'd call your spouse and say, count me in. I want to honor my friend because he or she spent their life investing in me. So it's all but 8. Do you have these 8 people in your life?
Wow.
It takes 8 people to bury you. A guy like me, your family and your spouse, and then 6 people to carry you to your last resting place if you use a traditional coffin. But everybody needs that. So if you don't have those 8, we ain't getting any younger.
Right.
Go find them. Go find them.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
and I
man.
just pray I can get this thing finished and published. I got to pay for college.
Oh, yeah.
Times 4.
Yeah, I'm giving up the selling of the holy waters. No, I'm just kidding. I've never even thought about that. I'll make that a joke. So
yes, we're talking about pallbearers. You ever heard of the "I'll be your huckleberry"? You know, we see people say, "I'll be your huckleberry," but it's actually he's saying, "I'll be your hucklebearer," because I guess the handles on the casket were called huckles, hooks, something like that. Yeah. And then I'll be your hucklebearer.
Yeah.
It means it'll carry
you know where Hocus Pocus came from, don't you? So in the ancient, not the ancient world, but when Christianity began to spread throughout Europe, the mass was in Latin, and most people didn't even know what it was. And so when they heard the priest do the hopus, my brain just went nuts in Latin there.
Yeah.
Sabius corpus, the blessing over the Eucharist or the Lord's Supper. Yeah. Most people would be like, I don't know. He gets up here and just says hocus pocus, because that's what they picked up from the Latin, and so it kind of stuck, and then it turned into
I love that
voodoo
stuff. Those kind of words and things, where
the
they
etymology of languages.
We should have a show just talking about that, because I could do a lot of them too.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Hamisms. Revisms.
Well, that too. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, maybe in a couple months we'll come back. We'll just do a bunch of research on those. I would love it if your people want to listen to crazy stuff like that, because we can tell stories all night.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely can.
Yeah.
All right. So one more question.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on? I know we keep talking about death.
Oh gosh.
But I know
death is inevitable.
Yeah.
Death is inevitable.
Ain't none of us getting out of this alive, bro.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But one thing that has amazed me is the more that I talk to the older people, let's say that are getting closer to it, it is almost like they become traditionally more. They get to be more comfortable with it and more okay and accepting with it. Because I've wondered for a long time, my whole life, up until my dad passed away, I've been like, what is it like to be up there in the 70s and the 80s? And you're like, no, that today could be your last day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then
I would always say, is everybody in heaven, if they're in heaven, got a current haircut, or are you marked with your style the day that you passed?
But then again, I've heard that too, that it could be a blessing also as well, because it's like you're living every day like it's your last day. You know what I mean? In a way. So
what, when you're 70 or when you're 40?
Well, when you're getting older.
Oh, when you're getting older.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but now we talk about people should probably live every day like it could be your last day.
Yeah.
And to treat people accordingly, and to be, like you were just saying about, kissing your spouse and tell them you love them, your kids and everything else.
So
always let them know that you love them.
He's like, get to the point, Dave.
So what's the question?
What about when someone loses it's totally unexpected, they lose a loved one, and it's just like, why? You know what I mean?
Oh,
You always have that question, why?
Well,
why did this have to happen?
Here's the biggest thing I think is, number one, God can handle. He's big enough to handle your questions, and grief is real. When I was doing my my master's degree, I had a great pastoral counselor, caring counselor guy. So I focused on New Testament and Old Testament and translations and being able to speak it and preach it. But I also did a lot of pastoral stuff too, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so we used to say years ago that grief had like a 15-month cycle, no matter what you go through. I'd like to go back and find that dude that wrote that in a book and punch him right in the mouth, because grief has its own timeline.
Everybody does it differently too.
And time is a thief. If it's the misnomer that I'm going to die when I'm old. I hope so. I hope I live a blessed long life and be able to influence a lot of people. So the idea is that don't let time be a thief. Jesus said, "Take no thought for what you are to say, he says." Sorry, I got a couple Bible verses in my mind. I'm hungry right now. I need some food.
Yes.
But Jesus talked about in Matthew 6 that don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, what you're going to drink. These are the things that the pagans are consumed with. But he said, "You seek first the kingdom of God and my righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. For who of you by worrying one day, who worrying can add 1 minute to your life? None of us can. For sufficient is the evil of the day." And so you live with a posture to care, and so you don't live with regrets. That's the worst thing ever, is to live with regrets. And so you position your life to eradicate regrets. That's the joy of living. But when you lose someone unexpected, and here's what I always say: I didn't lose them because I know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
When they go,
they're just they're waiting on me.
Right. And if they're a believer, I believe they spend eternity in heaven. Jesus Jesus spent more time talking about heaven and hell and money than he did any other subject.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when that person is gone, keep celebrating their memory.
Mm-hmm.
Keep talking about them. Keep celebrating their birthdays, as long as it's beneficial in the grieving aspect for you. When you have those questions, why, Lord? Like I've asked a bunch, because I've had a lot of my friends die over the past 5 to 8 years. And I've found God's big enough and his grace is sufficient. And he does have a plan for all of us. You know, when David sinned with Bathsheba gave birth to a child that was stillborn. And David stayed with that baby for a period of time. And then he washed himself and he danced. And he danced before the Lord and he celebrated. And people were like judging him for it. And he goes, look, why are y'all judging me this? I'm going to become even more undignified. But here's what he said. He said, of the child, he said, he cannot return to me, but I can go to him. And I think that's one of the most powerful statements ever, is that I can't get that person back. You know, I've stood by the side of widows. They've lost the love of their life. Oh man, it's so strong. I just had a lady tell me the other night, she said, Pastor Brian, I don't want you to think weird of me, but I was so nervous being in this medical facility. She said, I woke up 3 o'clock in the morning and I felt a hand touching me. And I know it was my husband, who passed almost 10 years previous to her.
Wow.
I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
I know that the Bible doesn't present any like unembodied spirits or ghosts. There's only one ghost, that's the Holy Ghost, right? But I don't have a problem with believing that God has a way to transfer his love and affection psychosomatically in our body that we could recognize. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, to watch them go through those moments, and, you know, I've watched people lose a loved one, specifically a spouse, and then remarry. And it's not as though that person replaces their first love. It's just they said, I'm going to keep living, and I've maybe hopefully been surprised by love again. You know, but you don't ever stop celebrating their memory. And you celebrate the fact, here's what I often say, is that when I have someone go before me that I really love, this is what I think about, and I encourage people to think about it. This nasty, broken world can't touch them anymore.
Yeah, true.
There's nothing about this brokenness. There's nothing about cancer. There's nothing about depression. There's nothing about the strain of the day-to-day that can ever hurt them anymore. And so you learn to celebrate that, and then you keep talking about them, and you keep, you know, doing those things, you know, that help you grieve and remember them. I often tell people too that, you know, it'll always hurt. It just won't sting like it does right now. And everybody goes through what we know clinically is an acronym. It's STUG, sudden temporary upsurge of grief. It's like me drinking a cheer wine and then having a belch come out of nowhere that I can't control. And, you know, you smell a smell that reminds you of them. You know, you hear a song that reminds you of them. You know, you're at a specific moment at a specific time and you think of them and it bubbles up.
Yeah.
And maybe it's emotions. Maybe you can get mad. Maybe you start crying. Maybe you grieve in your heart. Maybe you're just, you know. And I just tell people, look, when that happens, you're not losing your mind. You're not. Your body is grieving. And so sing the song. Smell the smell as long as you can. You know, be present in that moment until maybe it starts stealing your sleep. And then I always tell people that if it starts stealing your sleep, then I want to encourage people to get up out of bed. You know, wake up at 1 a.m, you're thinking about them and your heart's hurting and you're sad. Get out of bed, set a timer. Write or say everything you'd want to say to them. And when that timer goes off, pray this prayer.
That's great.
Lord, I've thought about her or him all I can think about them, and I need to sleep. So I'm asking you to take care of them as they're in your care and give me the ability to sleep and go to bed.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. All right, so writing things down is a good thing to do anyway, but whenever you can also put it in the hands of the Lord, it's you know, I got to get my sleep, and it's in your hands.
And it may happen again tomorrow night, and you get up and you write everything you wanted to write to them.
Yeah.
You know, and you tell them, you know, you tell them the things that you want to tell them. That's why when a good friend of mine, her husband passed away, and I was amazed at how many pictures they had. They took pictures all the time. And so she still has all those pictures to be able to look through and process through and tell stories. And she didn't do it all the time, but I was like, man, did First Lady and I have that many pictures? Do I have that many pictures of me and my kids, you know? You know, or do, you know, because, you know, your kids can talk you out of taking pictures and stuff like that.
Of course.
But make those memories that are stronger than drink. Make memories that are so stiff with power and closeness that time can't steal those from you. And it'll be those memories and the presence of God that will get you through the dark days of your heart hurting. So maybe that's helpful.
Yeah, that's great. That was that's strong.
You're gonna start calling me Rev of Death here.
That's deep, but no, it's. I think that's one of the thing in life that people are probably the most. I don't know if you want to call it scared or intimidated by, because you don't know. I mean, it's like you know, it's the unknown. It's the unseen. You can't see what, you know, physically see.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, I feel like when we talk about this, maybe we need to say this too. You know, if you're listening to us and you're at a stage in your life where you have been hurt, maybe somebody that you love has gone on, and you're really wrestling with your why and your existence, remember, just take a deep breath in right now. You are still here because there's a major purpose for you. Somebody needs to draft with you around this racetrack of life. You need to be someone else's pusher behind them. And if you quit, you do something crazy like take your life or try to extinguish yourself beforehand, the entire line is going to slow down because of that. So stay the course. Giving up is not an option. Race so well that when it's your time to go to the pits, when it's your time to really be overhauled, everyone will know it. But let that be in the hand of God.
In the hand of God. Yes.
Don't let that be in your hands. You have a purpose. And if you try to check out too soon, we'll never know that purpose.
Right.
Don't be selfish like that.
And speaking of that, I listen to a lot of these people that talk about near-death experiences, you know, and things, and they say, you know, they went to heaven or a heaven-like place, whatever, but they said, no, your time, you're not ready yet. It's not your time.
That's a pretty consistent message.
It's not your time. So go back and complete your life, what you're meant to do, and then when it's time, it'll be time.
Yeah.
And you don't know till it is your time what your purpose was.
Right. Well, I mean, you find that purpose throughout your life, and then you take all the things that you're learning, the things that you're doing, and then you know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm meant to do right here.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, which is, we could have a whole nother show about that too. So we just need to start writing these lists of things down we want to talk about. Gosh, NDEs. Yeah. All right. Is there any questions, comments, any of that type of stuff? Sorry, y'all.
Just everybody saying wonderful and stuff like that.
Yeah, lots of hearts.
Yeah.
We got into so much into this deep conversation.
Yeah, it was pretty deep.
Man, yeah.
And Scott's telling us hello from Daytona Bike Week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what's up, man? There's a bunch of folks down there that we know of. I saw Terry and Denise were loading up, headed there.
He sent me a video. He's got a little farm down there. He's got some cows. And
who does?
Such. Scott does. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Down in Florida. Yeah. I don't know how many cows he has. Maybe 10 or so.
I think there's more than 10.
A couple of donkeys. Yeah. Man,
oh yeah.
It's great.
Where in Florida? Where is he at?
DeLand. It's near DeLand.
Oh yeah, DeLand.
It's DeLeon Springs.
Yeah.
But right there near DeLand. Yeah.
That's cool.
30 minutes from Daytona.
Yeah, I got a few friends that live in actually, like my second dad lives in Port Orange.
Okay.
And he's Joe Norwood. Maybe I'll send this to him.
Okay.
I miss him a lot. He was pretty pivotal in my life when I was making my changes. He was my high school algebra teacher, and then he taught me how to bodybuild. And Yes, he's a very interesting individual.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
For our listeners, Sherman or Stony Ballard, he lives down there near Tampa.
Okay.
And he's a high school instructor, an automotive instructor.
Nice.
Yep. And then some of our other listeners live in Rodriguez. They live in Port St. Lucie.
Oh yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, I was born in Orlando, live in Kissimmee and then Melbourne. And
oh yeah.
I miss that. I love going back. There's no fishing like Florida fishing.
Oh.
So.
Yeah. I had to try that because I go down there and go out on the boat with Scott but I haven't actually tried fishing yet. So on the boat.
Really?
Out in the
bay. Are you on the bay or on the shore?
Yeah, we're on the
Intercoastal.
The river there at Halifax.
Oh yeah.
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 But we have gone out on the ocean though. We've gone out to Ponce Inlet.
Yeah.
And then went by the lighthouse and then went out into the ocean about 5 miles or so.
Yeah. Ocean weirds me out on a boat, man.
Yeah, it is.
As long as like there's a breeze, I'm fine. But I love going deep sea fishing. But man, it's I've learned
plenty ginger.
Yeah,
ginger helps.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah, I had both the bands on. I don't know what happened. Like it's part of getting older. I guess my equilibrium's off. Like I used to be able to ride spinny rides, at the fair and stuff like that. Like that scrambler they used to have. Remember the tilted cut or the teacups they'd have?
Yeah.
Dude, I would make everybody throw up. Of course, I was a fat kid. I get that thing rolling, boy. I just wrench back on it. So yeah, it was good living in the generation where you didn't have to wear a helmet for everything.
That's true. I remember going downhill on a skateboard, and then the skateboard starts doing this wall thing there because it was one of those thin skateboards back in the day.
Let me tell you, this was my helmet back in the day, riding my dirt bike and everything right here. That was my helmet. As long as, and all the hat was for is to keep the spider webs. Yeah. Of course, I had hair then. You just keep the spider webs out of your hair.
That's right.
Nobody wore a helmet.
Dirt bike going through the woods.
Oh yeah, wide open, man. Just bouncing off trees. That's probably what's wrong with me today is all these concussions between motorcycle wrecks and fist fighting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So So Buelah Baptist is on YouTube.
Yeah, BeulahChurch.com is our website. You can pick up our sermons there every week, or you can listen here on 92.9 at 10:30 a.m. That sermon that's produced here is a week behind. Or I also do a early morning prayer time on Facebook, and my name is Brian Burgess. It is Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings from 6 to 6:30. Basically, we read a passage of Scripture, I talk about it, make life applications, and then we pray together. So that's Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. I'm here on the radio station on Wednesdays. It's the Billy Buck and the Rev, 6:55. I do the Rev is Right. I also have an Instagram, which is Brian BBM, not for big, beautiful male. That's somebody still was like, is that what that means? Like, no, that is really gross. That's really sick. No, it's Brian Burgess Ministries. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to have you check us out on the YouTubes is Buelah Church, and you guys who have been following and can see where I have responded there. Yeah. BeulahChurch.com. Look, we love you. Come see us.
Very good. Yeah, give them a like, give them a follow, give them a tune in.
Yeah.
It'd be the best thing to do. I meant to say hey to Stony. So we're talking about Stony Ballard, but his kids, he teaches high school down there, automotive instructor, and we always call him Stoney's kids.
Stoney's kids.
Yeah. So hey to y'all. A lot of times he gets them to come back and watch this, and he gives them extra credit or whatever. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, man, we watched this dude. He was talking about death the whole time. Like, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. So
good deal.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for tuning in, and thanks to Mr. Reverend Burgess Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Delight, thanks for having me.
Of course.
I really appreciate it. I'm grateful.
Yeah. Same here, buddy.
All right, bro.
And we'll see y'all next Monday. So y'all have a great week. And thanks for watching Racing Roots with Hamm.
Save the date. The Mooresville Health and Wellness Expo is coming to the Charles Mack Citizen Center Thursday, March 16th from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. There will be eye screenings, CPR and first aid training, yoga demonstrations, pediatric dental screenings, health assessments, and